You have to work for what you want. You have to show the universe what you want to work for. What is going on, Randy? So, with that being said, the reason why I want to speak on it, yeah, is because I know a lot of people have got it so twisted, and it's just, you're on the path to failure. If you sit there just hoping and wishing, relying on the law of attraction, you're going to fail. You're going nowhere but failure unless you're in that small percentage of lucky people that just make it out of luck. I got a bit carried away, but you really work for what you want. You need to give the universe will pay you back from what you put into it. So if you're putting a lot of hard work and energy into what you want to achieve, the universe will pay you that thing. It will pay you back. No one owes you, nobody get no handout sitting there hoping and wishing on the law of attraction to work. It ain't gonna fly. You're just gonna be sitting there in your chair all bloody day for the rest of getting nowhere. Like working on what you really want is not enough. Getting through anything less than 2 hours a day on it. Anything less here than probably 5 hours a day into what you want to achieve is not enough. The universe ain't gonna give you shit. So yeah, that's my take on law of attraction. Comment down below, let's have a discussion. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button. Like I said, comment down below. Share this with a friend if you think someone needs to hear this shit, because I know a lot of people need to hear this. A lot of people need to get up and really work towards what they want. You know, as long as I spend behind my fucking computer editing videos and studying what I want to do with things like about my brand and I'm non-stop. I release videos all the time. It takes long to edit a video. This video is probably not going to be too long. But when I'm switching the cameras and when I've got my drawing in here, when I'm doing all this and that in the first, it takes long. But I ain't complaining. I signed up for this. And I'm going to see it all the way through. I'll keep working. The only thing that's going to stop me is achieving what I want from this channel and what I want to achieve. Like, if there's nothing going to stop me achieving my purpose unless I drop dead. And that ain't happening until I've achieved my purpose here. With that being said, all the distractions, focus on your purpose. There's so many distractions. If you're hanging around with friends that ain't inspiring you, you sit there looking. If you're down the pub all the time and you're looking around and everyone else is sitting at the pub just drinking that same pint, or you're sitting in the same room and people just blazing up, ain't doing nothing all this time, it's okay to have relaxation time and like take a break sometimes. But if you're just sitting there doing nothing all day, every fucking day, you ain't getting nowhere. Watch the people you surround yourself with, like the video, comment down below, you know what it is, seems fuck average. He probably thought I was nuts, but didn't even see them. I was just shouting my helmet, like I've got someone else in it. But me, he almost think I'm crazy.
Hey guys, this is GBR Rich here bringing out a video today. I'm making a video on how to ride a motorcycle for the first time. This is being brought about from a lot of comments and personal messages that I've gotten from tons of people all the way across the world just asking for some more information on how to get into motorcycles, how to do shift, how to be brake, what gear is needed, and stuff like that. So there's already a ton of videos out there like this. I'm just going to try to put my own personal twist on, maybe throw a little bit of humor in there, just try to get across the message of how to ride a motorcycle for the first time safely, efficiently, and all that good stuff. So without any further ado, let's get into the video. All right, so one more thing, guys, before we get started. Some of you probably are thinking, why should I listen to this guy? Why should I listen to Hunter BBR or Rich make a video about how to ride a motorcycle for the first time? So let me just give you a little bit of background on myself. been riding street bikes for 3 years, dirt bikes for 2 years before that. Nothing serious though. I had not ever been in an accident on a motorcycle. I had not tipped my bike over. I didn't have any tickets to my name, several warnings though. I graduated the motorcycle safety foundation class with nearly a perfect written score and a perfect writing score. So that is why I believe that I'm able to make a video like this and why I am a trustworthy listener. So without any further ado, again, let's get into the actual video here. Alrighty guys, first things first, if you want to get into motorcycle riding or ride a motorcycle for the first time, you're going to need some gear. And let's just talk basics on gear real quick here. The more gear you wear while riding a motorcycle, the safer you are going to be. Not necessarily as far as cars hitting you, but if you do get in an accident, you're going to be a lot better off wearing gear than if you were not. In my videos, I'm kind of notorious for not wearing gear, but it's a personal choice in my mind. But I would always recommend that you wear as much gear as you can, or as much gear as you're, willing to take a risk with. So anyways, let's get into it here. First part of the gear that I would definitely recommend, number one thing, is a helmet. My helmet right here is an Orion Corsair 5 Scott Russell edition. I have a review video on my channel of it if you'd like to check it out more or to see some more angles of it. My gloves, the next thing that I always wear no matter what, are just the Fox Bomber gloves in black right there. Very breathable. It's summertime here in Nebraska, and we'll get up to 100 plus degrees with 80+% humidity. So very, very breathable gloves. They work great. My hands don't get sweaty at all or anything like that. Over here are my two jackets. Right here on the left is the Icon Contra jacket. It's a textile one, very, very breathable again. Has a removable liner on the inside, but this guy, as well as my other one, has the CE rated armor that goes in the elbows, shoulders, and the back. So it'll protect you very, very well if you do go down. And then over here is my other jacket, which is going to be a leather one. And this is the AGV Sport Suzuki GSX-R branded one. And again, it will also have the protective CE rated pads in the elbows, shoulders, and the back piece as well. So again, normally when I ride, I always wear the helmet, I always wear the gloves, and I always wear closed-toed shoes. Those are some pretty crazy shoes, but I'm a pretty crazy guy. They're also leather. Don't wear flip-flops, don't wear Crocs, don't wear anything like that. Wear a closed-toed leather shoe at least at the bare minimum. They make racing boots and stuff like that as well if you would like. But that's the gear overview. And again, the more you wear, better off you're going to be. Let's move on to the next part here now. Alrighty guys and gals, now you get your gear all picked up and know what's going on with that type of stuff. We're going to move on to the basic parts of the motorcycle, and right here is my 2007 Suzuki GSX-R 600. I'm just going to kind of hit on the big ticket items that you need to know where they're at and what they do in order to be successful riding a motorcycle. Starting on the left side over here, you're going to have your own foot peg right there and your shifter. On my bike, it's 1 down and 5 up for a total of 6 gears. Also, neutral is located between first and second gear. It's a half click up. If you're not familiar with this, you'll become very, very familiar after riding it. You need to know how to use this guy. Normally, it's 1 down and then 5 up on them, like I said. So moving up here to the controls, on the left side, you're going to have just a handlebar grip right here. You're also going to have your clutch lever right there. So you engage and disengage the clutch with that guy. Depending on your bike, you may or may not have some of these controls that I have, but on mine, I've got the light, the low beam or high beam selection right there, the hazards light as well, and my turn signals right there. And then also this yellow bit back here is just the passing lights that I'll flip the high beam up on for me for a second. Moving over to the right side here is going to be your right side handlebar, right side grip, and this guy is also going to have your throttle on. So as you can see, pulling that guy back, that's what makes you go faster on the bike. Up here is going to be your front brake lever, and if you didn't know, you actually get most of your stopping power from your front brake. So keep that in mind. I'll go into more detail later. And then the last thing that you need to know is over here, and this is going to be your right peg, and then also your rear brake control. Push down, and it applies rear brake for you. So that's it, guys. And I guess, one more thing, your ignition right up here. That's where your key goes, and that's how you turn the bad boy on. Alrighty guys, I'm all geared up now. Got my gloves, my jacket, jeans, shoes on and stuff, and let's move on to actually getting on the motorcycle. So again, here's my GSX-R. I always get on from the left side of the motorcycle. That would be the side with the kickstand down on it. This makes it easier to move your leg up and over. You're not kicking your tail section at all or anything like that. And then it also gives you, with kickstand down, that's how you can easily rest the bike back down, should you need to, once you get on it. So
I always put my left hand on the left control bar, just swing the leg over, body, and then go ahead and touch both your feet flat-footed if you can, or tippy toes. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes you don't have a choice. And, just get kind of comfortable with the bike. Go ahead and put the kickstand up on it. And now here we are. My bike is currently off. Going to turn it to on. Going to turn the bike to run, or to the on position, I guess you could say. It's going to go ahead and prime the engine. I have a gear indicator right here. Some bikes may not have that. It's really easy to tell when you start the bike, you just want to be in neutral, and you can tell if you're in neutral. If you roll the bike, like I'm rolling the bike right now, and it's stopping, that's because it's engaging the transmission in the engine, and that's preventing the bike from actually rotating forward like that. So, and as the gear indicator would show, I'm in gear 1, not in neutral. So I'm going to go ahead and half a click up. It's 0. A green light comes on. That's pretty standard on most bikes, and when you see that, you're good to start. Now this part, something just to be on the safe side, just in case the gear indicator was off or the green light wasn't working properly, always pull in your clutch before you start the bike. That way, should something go wrong, the engine will just rev up and you won't go anywhere, and you easily fill it again. So again, bike is on. I am in neutral. I have the clutch pulled. Bike. And there we go. And again, the bike wasn't revving up high. I knew I was in neutral. I let out the clutch, and here we go. The bike's idling. If you're doing a cold start on the bike, you're going to want to let it warm up before you actually try to ride it around at all or anything like that. My bike is currently at 167 degrees Fahrenheit, so I rode it over here, so it's kind of warmed up from that already. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in to the next part of the video, which is going to be the basic maneuvers and learning the clutch. Alrighty guys, we're back here. Bike started, it's warmed up, we're ready to go. And the very first thing when you get on a new bike, or if you're new to riding, is you want to find where the clutch engages the transmission at, or where it starts to actually start to move forward on you. So right now I just put the bike into first gear. It was in neutral. I pushed down once on the shifter while holding the clutch in. And now I'm just going to kind of let the clutch out and see the bike is rolling like that. That's not rolling by itself like that. And I can feel the engine like when the RPMs want to drop. You can see it go drop. Up down a little bit, and keep in mind that again was no throttle whatsoever. So I know that the bike starts to engage, or the clutch starts to disengage about half an inch out from completely closed. So once you kind of get that down and stuff like that, and a real easy way to kind of ingrain it into your skull where that's at is just to go across a parking lot or so, just moving the clutch out very slowly like that, and put your feet down, and always have your hand on the front brake if you need to. And should the bike ever do anything you don't want it to do, always pull on the clutch and apply front brake. That way the engine will stop sending power to the transmission. That'll stop your forward progress or your forward movement. And then applying the front brake will slow you down from whatever speed that you were going as well. So just keep that in mind. Alrighty guys, real quick here, I want to show you what will happen if you let out the clutch too quickly. So again, I'm stopped. I'm in neutral right now. Gonna go ahead and put it into first, and there it goes. And if you let out the clutch too fast, here's the sweet spot again. I'm letting the clutch out, and I'm starting to roll forward. There's the sweet spot. That's where it's engaged. If I let it out too fast, the bike's gonna die like that. And that's nothing to be worried about. It doesn't hurt the bike necessarily at all, and it happens to everybody. If nobody If somebody told you they've never killed their motorcycle or the engine in a manual transmission car or on a motorcycle, they're definitely lying to you. So that's not a big deal at all. I'm just going to go ahead and pull the clutch back in, put it back into neutral, and start the bike right back up. To show you what you can also do if you're very, very smooth with the clutch release. You can actually get the bike rolling without applying any throttle. So here we go. There's the sweet spot, starting to come up. It's really coming up. I'm just letting out very, very slowly. And there you go. Same thing that Mordef did. I am not applying, look, no throttle. Here's my hand, no throttle. And the bike is moving in first gear. So if you have a smooth enough clutch release, you can actually get the bike going without even having to apply throttle. It's that easy. And the bike's not going fast. It's holding steady at 6 miles an hour. So There you go. Something to maybe strive for. Maybe one of you guys can leave a video response for yourself doing that. Moving on here, so I got that down and everything, and again, go back and forth on a parking lot if you need more to get it down more or something like that. But once you know that sweet spot, apply a little bit of throttle to it, just a little bit. So I might take up to 2,000 when it hits that point. So letting out the clutch, bringing up the RPMs, and we're good, just like that. So the bike, with that, I gave it a little bit of throttle. I went a little bit faster, as you obviously can tell. And that's the way that you're going to take off with the bike when you're actually starting it and stuff like that. And this guy probably has no idea what the hell I'm doing, but that's all right. I'm not doing anything wrong. It's the church I go to. So anyways, again, just same time. And now we're off and running. And all I did was I completely let the clutch go out, applied a little bit more throttle, and now I'm just rolling in first gear. And again, since if I want to stop the bike or come to a slowdown, I'm going to pull in the clutch and apply front brake, and we're going to come all the way back down to 0 miles an hour. And something that you might want to turn off is you can have both feet, come down off the bike at slow speed so you can catch yourself when you actually stop. Sometimes you can lose your balance, especially if the surface is uneven or anything like that. So keep that in mind as well. But anyways, that's kind of it. Again, to show you, just kind of letting out the clutch, applying a little bit of throttle, and we are off and rolling now. So the next thing we're going to do is shifting on the motorcycle. And this is something that a lot of people kind of get scared about, but there's no need to be scared at all about shifting. It's actually very, very, very straightforward and very easy to do. And the way that we're actually going to shift is very straightforward. Once you got the bike rolling and everything, again, all you're going to do, I'm going to put the bike back in neutral since I'm stopped here. So you're rolling in first gear. When you want to shift up, which can be, on my bike, it starts off at 0 and goes all the way up to 16,000. I normally shift between 6 to 4,000. Anywhere where you're comfortable or when you think you need to change gear, all you're going to do is going to kill the throttle, pull in the clutch, shift up on your gear lever, and then go ahead and let out the clutch and reapply throttle. Very straightforward. I'll show you again here. So here's the takeoff. Finding that sweet spot, giving it a little bit of throttle so the engine doesn't actually die. And there we go, we're rolling in first gear. I'm going to move over here to the actual road. So I'm going to kill the throttle, pull in the clutch, shift up in a second, let out the clutch, and apply throttle again. And that's as easy as that. And you just keep repeating that process as many times as you need to in order to get through all your gears or get to the desired speed that you want to. But when you're first learning out, don't worry about going up into 6th gear. The higher in the gears you get, the faster you need to be going to keep the engine in its power band and have enough power so the engine doesn't die in a corner or anything like that. All right, guys. Second last thing I want to show you here is turning a motorcycle. And something very important to keep in mind while turning a motorcycle is to look through your corner. Like right here, let's say I wanted to turn left. I don't want to look like right in front of the bike where the bike's going. I want to have my head turned all the way over there and look past the apex of the corner to where I want to end up. So just keep that in mind every time you're turning a motorcycle. And at low speeds, at 10 miles an hour or less, all you do to turn the bike, if you want to go left, just push the handlebars to the left. Under 10 miles an hour, you want to go right, push the handlebars to the right. Very easy, very straightforward. Now then, let me go ahead and give you an actual example of that. So we're going to get started just like I showed you earlier. And we're going to go left. So I'm just going to move the bike, the handlebars to the left. So here's left again, handlebars to the left. There they go, there they go, there they go. Right, handlebars are going to the right. To the left, handlebars are going to the left again. Now let me show you what you need to do when you actually are going faster than 10 miles an hour. This is going to sound like kind of a foreign concept, but it's still very, very easy to understand and to know what to do when you're actually on the bike. This is something that don't worry about right now. If you're just sitting at home on the computer and thinking about getting a bike, do not worry about this at all. It'll be very, very easy to learn once you're actually on a bike, and it's kind of hard to explain otherwise. And I'll leave a link to a video right here of when I did this in depth on, but it's called counter steering. If I'm going faster than 10 miles an hour, I want to go to the left. I'm actually going to push or pull the handlebars to the right. And that might sound weird, but what that's going to do is that's going to transfer the weight of the bike over to the opposite side that you're pushing or pulling the handlebars, and then cause the bike to lean in that direction, and it's just going to set you up for that corner. So up here, let me show you here. If I want to go left, look, I'm going to push to the right, and the bike falls over like that. And it's just, again, a way to initiate the corner. So let me get back through here and get to another open spot, and I'll show you again. This is something here. So again, I want to go, let's say I want to go to the right. I'm actually going to push the handlebars to the left. Did you see that? I pushed it to the left, but the bike actually fell to the right, and I started to go right. The wheel kind of automatically came back over for me. Let me show you that again. And I do that, so I'm going 14. I actually did it just a little bit to initiate that corner. And again, it's just something that makes the bike a lot easier to control. And let's say you're going through a corner and you need to further your lean angle or turn in tighter, you're going to counter steer again. So if you're going left and need to go tighter left, if you need to make a tighter corner, you're actually going to counter steer again, like pull the bars to the right or push them to the right. And that will cause the bike to fall over to the other side and lean in even tighter for you. But again, just keep in mind that's just a way to initiate the corner, and that's really it. So that's it for this part, guys. And now we're going to move on to the next part, which is going to be braking on a motorcycle. Alrighty, guys. So now we're going to start the braking part of this video. And motorcycle braking is very easy. Again, front brake lever over here on the right, and my rear brake lever is right down there. It's a foot peg. You push it down, and it applies rear brake for you. You're going to get most of your front braking or your braking overall braking power from your front brake. I think it's actually 60 or 70% of your total braking power comes from your front brake alone. So don't rely only on the rear brake. You're going to need to use front brake. And what I normally do is get going again. And when I need to slow down, depending on how fast you're going, you're going to want to pull in the clutch and then just apply a small amount of front brake. And it doesn't hurt to just cover the rear brake lever at all either. So when I say cover the rear brake lever, all I mean is just rest your foot on top of it and just kind of let it push the lever down just slightly. So again, I'm going to pull in the clutch, apply front brake, and we're going to come down to a stop just like that. I stuck my left foot out to catch me, and my right foot is still actually on the brake pedal down there, along with my hand on the front brake, and I still have the clutch pulled in, and I am in first gear, just to kind of give you an overview of everything that happened there. So let's get going again here. And what you want to try to avoid, and when you're braking, you got to understand that all the weight's going to be transferred to the front. So if you apply hard front brake and you apply hard rear brake, your rear tire is going to lock up and you start to slide out on you. And you want to avoid that. That's not something good that's going to happen. You want to avoid any of your tires. Rear, it's better to have your rear lock up than your front. Your front can become very, very messy if you lock it up. But if you lock up your rear tire on your bike, don't worry about it. Just keep it locked until you come to a complete stop, and then you can release the brake pedal. You don't want to unrelease the tire. Like if it's locked up, you don't want to let off the brake, because what will actually happen is that the bike can catch traction again, and it might actually cause the bike to jump or to hop on you. Now then, if you lock up your front tire, which I have never done, and you'd have to apply some crazy hard front brake pressure to it, if that happens, let off the front brake. You do not want your front brake or your front tire to be skidding on you. That's what you want to avoid at all costs. So if your front brake or your front tire does lock up and starts to slide, let off slightly on your front brake so you can regain control and be able to steer your bike and all of that stuff. Alrighty guys, so this has been Hustlers GBR and my how to ride a motorcycle for the very first time video. I showed you firstly what gear and how to pick out your gear and stuff like that. I showed you the basic parts of a motorcycle, how to get on the motorcycle, start your motorcycle, get the motorcycle rolling, shift the motorcycle, and then lastly, I showed you how to brake and stop a motorcycle. So again, this has been Hustlers GBR, Rich. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Show the video a little bit of love. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions. And we'll see all you guys later. Ride safe now and take it easy. Hey, welcome to Weekly Rides with Ruben. Weekly Rides with Ruben are uploaded every Wednesday, and they're a random collection of motorcycle reviews, bike adventures, and life on two wheels. And today we're going to do a basic review on how to shift your motorcycle. So if you're brand new to riding and you've never ridden a bike before, or maybe you're just trying to get some pointers or tips, or maybe you've been riding for a while, we're going to cover some different techniques on how you actually shift a motorcycle, since almost all motorcycles have a manual transmission. There's definitely a few exceptions out there. Whether or not you've driven a car with a stick shift or not, you can still learn to ride a motorcycle and shift all through the gears. But there are obviously some key differences between a car's manual transmission and a motorcycle transmission. One of the biggest differences is a motorcycle transmission is sequential, which means you have to shift from first to second. The third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and then back down in that order. You can't go from first to third without shifting into second in between. And most bikes will have a little diagram on the side here. A lot of bikes do, so you can see kind of the shift sequence. So typically on most bikes, first gear is all the way down, and then you have neutral in between first and second gear, and then up from that, which is lifting this lever, you're going to go second, third, fourth, fifth, and then obviously some bikes have sixth gear also. But this is your shift lever. It has a linkage on it, and this linkage just turns this little spline here, and there's a drum inside that moves things called shift forks. And the shift forks basically slide the gears into and out of each other to engage the different gears in the transmission as you're shifting. So all you're going to do is push down on this to get it down into first gear, and it'll click, click, click.
until it's all the way at the bottom and it won't click anymore. That's typically all the way down in first, and then you get your foot underneath it to click up into second. Now, neutral, like I said, is right in between first and second. Most bikes, it's a much better idea to start them in neutral versus being in gear. A lot of bikes will require you to pull the clutch lever in as well. Even if it's in neutral, it's a good idea to get in that habit too. So I'm going to get my toe underneath that lever there, and just give it a light pull up into neutral, and I'll have a neutral light that'll come on there. Now, some bikes are a little bit more finicky than others. Some bikes, if you give it just a little too much pressure, it's just going to click into second, and then you're going to have to go back down into first to try to find neutral again. Sometimes it helps to rock the bike back a little bit if it's doing that, or if you just are putting pressure on it and it doesn't want to click on you. Sometimes the transmission has a little bit of a bind in it just because of the way the bike is stopped. So you might want to just rock the bike a little bit with the clutch out, and then it'll loosen up and allow you to find that gear, or neutral. So now that we're in neutral, we'll go ahead and pull the clutch in anyway, start the bike up. And if you've never ridden a bike before, this is your clutch. So obviously in a car, you use your foot to push the clutch and your arm to shift the gears. Well, on a bike, you're using your hand to shift the clutch, or to operate the clutch, which a lot of people get intimidated by that. They think it's going to be difficult, but think about it. You have a lot more fine motor control in your fingers and in your hand than you do with using your whole leg with a clutch in a car. So being able to use your hand, it's actually a lot easier. And if you have driven a stick shift car, this is going to come fairly easy to you. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, while the bike's still in neutral, give the clutch lever a few squeezes just to feel what it feels like. Feel the pressure. Different bikes have different amounts of force required. Some are pretty stiff. And what you're doing is you're separating those clutch plates. There's springs holding the clutch in so that it'll grab. And when you squeeze the clutch, it pushes them apart so that it can slip. And most bikes have either a wet or a dry clutch, or all bikes have a wet or dry clutch. Most motorcycles have a wet clutch, though. And they're designed... to slip. So you're not going to burn it up by letting it slip like you would in a car. It's designed to be able to slip a little bit. And since it's bathed in the same oil that is going through your motor and your transmission, it typically can take that a little bit more. Obviously, you don't want to sit there slipping it on purpose, but you get the idea. So after giving it a few squeezes so you can get the feel of how much pressure there is on the lever, and how much strength is going to be required, you're going to squeeze that, hold it in all the way against the grip, and then you're just going to click down into first, and you'll hear a little clunk. It kind of clicks. Most bikes kind of clunk like that as the transmission engages. So now I'm in first gear, and without even touching the gas, what I'm going to do is just slowly, and when I mean slowly, I mean millimeters at a time, start letting that clutch lever out. And if you can see my hand there, I'm just letting it out. And see how the bike's starting to roll? So it's pulling me. Now, the more you do that, the more I let it out, you'll hear the engine start bogging down. And if you're on a small bike with a little engine, you might even stall it doing this. But what you're doing is you're figuring out how far out you need to let the clutch before it starts engaging. So on my bike, you can see it's at least an inch to an inch and a half of travel before it starts pulling, okay? Now, when you want to get ready to start going, what you're going to do is give it just a slight amount of throttle at the same time as you're finding that release where the clutch is starting to engage. Now, on some bikes with a lot of torque, you can get going without even using the throttle. See that? You don't even need to use the throttle at all. And that's because this bike has enough torque to where if I let the clutch out nice and slow, it's not going to stall on me. But on most bikes, you need to give it a little gas. And obviously, if you're letting the clutch out faster, I mean, I can't stall. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, I let it out too fast. It stalled. All right. So that's stalling. So we're in neutral. Start it back up, and you can start it with the clutch in. It puts a little more wear there on the starter and everything. So what you're going to do with the bike in first gear is give it some gas. Now, stress before we get going here is it's trouble. You're kind of getting going a little faster than you expected, or you're scared, or you're veering off course because you're focusing so much on your clutch that you're not looking at where you're going. You always want to look where you want to go, so keep that in mind. But you can always pull the clutch back in, and as soon as you pull the clutch back in, the bike's not going to go anywhere. You can do this all you want, and it's not going to go anywhere. Keep the clutch pulled in. Up here, rear brakes down there. We're not covering all the basics, but just shifting right now. Keep that in mind. You can always just pull the clutch in, and you'll get yourself slowing down again. Okay? So what you're going to do is give the bike a little bit of gas, and I'm not talking a lot. I'm talking just, watch my hand here. It's just a slight amount of rotation. Rev that plenty to get it going. So as I let this out, I'm doing that over there. And then I'm flipping the clutch, and then I'm letting go. Okay? The mistake I see a lot of people make is they do this. I'm on a hill here. They do this. They give it the right amount of gas. Okay, so look, we're at 2,500 RPM, ready to go. They start engaging the clutch, and then they jump it like that. You see how jerky that was? That was really jerky and very uncomfortable. And honestly, on a bike like this, if you do that too much, you're going to wheelie. You could flip the bike over backwards. So you don't want to do that. So when the clutch starts engaging, sorry, I got to use my rear brake to stop rolling. So you're giving it some gas, say 2,000 RPM. You're engaging the clutch. Keep letting it slip. Look, it's still slipping. Still slipping. And now I'm letting go. So it's a smooth motion all the way through until it's fully engaged. Don't think, okay, it's starting to engage, and then boom, let go, because it's going to be really jerky like I just showed you. All right, we're going to actually ride now, so we can talk about actual shifting in the real world now that you're underway and able to get the bike moving. So obviously we learned how to get going on the bike. All right, so here's first gear, riding along. How do you get to second? It's very easy. Squeeze the clutch in, pull up on your toe, you'll hear it click. You know, if your neutral light hasn't come on, you're good, you're not in neutral. Make sure it's a good firm press or lift up with your toe. It might feel a little weird at first, and then you're just going to simply do exactly what you just did when you were getting started at the stop. Except this is even easier because you're already moving. A little bit of gas and let the clutch out. And another tip I'll give you is the bike will typically shift better if you put some pressure on the lever before you squeeze the clutch. So I'm pushing up just slightly and then pull in, and it just clicks right into gear. That's third gear. A little bit of pressure, clutch. And obviously when you squeeze the clutch in, you have to let off the gas too. Otherwise what'll happen is when you shift, it'll do this. So as soon as you pull the clutch in, the engine's just going to rev up. Okay? And then downshifting just the opposite. You're going to squeeze the clutch in, push down, and then you're going to let the clutch lever out slowly. Slowly. And the reason you want to let the clutch out slowly is because, you know, obviously your wheel speed is matching your engine speed for the gear that you're in. And when you go down a gear, you're suddenly requiring the engine to be spinning at a higher RPM. So when you go from like third to second, your engine now needs to be spinning, you know, maybe a couple thousand RPM faster. And if you let the clutch out really suddenly, it's going to be very jerky, for one. And number two, it can actually cause you to lose control because your rear wheel will actually lock up a little bit or skid a little bit as it tries to speed up or as it tries to speed the engine up, is what it's doing. So I'll show you what that looks like. If we downshift and dump the clutch, see how it's just really, you know, And if you're in the middle of a corner like this, that's not good at all. So there's a couple ways to downshift the motorcycle and keep it smooth. And this is the technique that probably was the hardest for me to learn as a beginner. I remember thinking back, downshifting smoothly was probably one of the biggest challenges, because no matter how smooth you are with the clutch, if you're just letting off the gas and slowing down, going down a gear, and then letting off like that, it still kind of rocks me back and forth, So I want it to be even smoother than that. I don't want to upset the suspension, and I'm thinking higher performance riding at this point. If you're going out on the track, and I'll tell you right now, a lot of bikes nowadays have what they call a slipper clutch, where it won't allow the rear wheel to kind of skip and lock up on you like this bike will. On those bikes, you dump the clutch on a downshift, and it allows the clutch in that direction to kind of slip a little bit so that the engine smoothly catches up to the gear that you're in. But say you don't have that, or you want to just perfect your shifting anyway, there's two ways to do it. Like I said, you can either let the clutch out nice and smooth and slow, let the engine smoothly catch up to where you're going, or the gear that you're in, or you can do what they call flipping the throttle. Now, this took me quite a while to kind of master, I will say, because what you're doing is as you're slowing down, you're using your brakes, right? And as you go down a gear, you're raising the RPM of the engine to match the gear that you're in, so that when you let that clutch back out, there's no drama at all. The engine's already at the RPM that it needs to be in the lower gear. And what that looks like for most people, if you're braking either with two fingers or with all four, I'll be honest, NSF lets you to use all four. I typically brake with two fingers. Just personal preference, I can get plenty of stopping power out of two fingers. But as I downshift, I'm squeezing the brake like this, and then I'm using my thumb like this. You hear that? To downshift. And the trick here is to do that without changing how much you're braking. Because obviously if you go like that and you squeeze the brake lever, you're going to be really jerky. So here, we'll come up to the stop sign here and I'll show you. We're going pretty fast here, and we're slowing down. Yeah, I'm doing that. And on those kind of downshifts, what I'm doing is, and that was downshifting all the way into first gear, which is, you don't necessarily typically downshift all the way to first. I usually downshift to second, and then as I come to a stop, I click it into first without letting the clutch back out. Of course, for high performance riding on a racetrack, a lot of times the bike you're on or a corner that you're going into, you need to be in first gear because it's real tight. So being able to downshift into first is a good skill to have. But remember, first gear is your shortest gear, and it's going to give you the most amount of engine braking. On most bikes, it's a lot, and it can be very jerky, especially if you're not matching your engine rev. So that's a kind of a more advanced technique to be able to downshift your motorcycle without inducing a lot of front to back jerking or unsettling on the suspension. But I know a lot of guys too, a lot of really fast guys on the track that don't mess with flipping the throttle at all. They simply downshift and then they smoothly let the clutch back out. So you don't even have to mess with flipping the throttle if it makes you uncomfortable or it feels weird. There's plenty of guys that race that don't do that. They just simply have perfected their clutch release. And that's just as fast. I personally prefer flipping. I just feel like it's more smooth for me, and I've gotten in the habit of doing it. And last thing I want to talk about is clutchless shifting. A lot of people for some reason, they like the idea that they can shift without using the clutch. And a motorcycle's transmission is absolutely capable of doing this. All you're doing is, because it's a sequential transmission and it's just one gear to the next, basically the way these gears work is there's these little holes in the gears, and then there's blocks that is in the next gear over, and the shift fork slides them in so that the blocks from one gear slide into the holes on the next gear over. They're called dogs. Now, you can shift the bike from one gear to the next without using the clutch. We'll get on the freeway here and demonstrate. You can do this by not using the clutch at all. You're just letting go of the throttle and putting pressure on the lever. You hear that? So we're shifting through the gears without that's fifth gear. Shifting through the gears without the clutch at all. Now, word of warning. I've replaced the transmission on this bike, so I've seen the inner workings, I've seen what doing that can cause. If you don't perfectly let off the throttle and have the transmission have absolutely no pressure on it at all, if you don't do that perfect, what you're doing is, one gear is spinning faster than the other, and then it slides over and it bangs into the next one. When it does that, that little block called the eventually it gets smashed and it gets rounded off. And those dogs are what holds your gears together when you're in second, third, fourth gear, whatever gear you're in. That's what holds it into gear. And so if your bike starts jumping out of gear, when you give it gas and it goes, it kicks back into neutral all by itself, that's because your transmission is screwed up. And more than likely, it's because somebody, either missed the shift because they didn't put enough pressure on the lever, and they really, if you ever miss the gear and heard it just go, crack like that, it sounds horrible. That's those dogs smashing into each other, and it's really, really bad for your transmission. So I would say, almost always, with the exception of maybe drag racing, if you're at the drag strip, and there's electronic shifters, there's all kinds of stuff that basically cut the ignition of the bike to you. Doesn't matter if you're giving it gas or not. You shift, and it's going to cut the ignition. And some of the new BMWs even have that, which is pretty cool. If you've got that, then obviously, it's designed to do it. But for most bikes, most street bikes, and definitely street riding, just get in the habit of using your clutch. Because, like I said, the 48,000 miles on this bike, I was needing a new transmission, and it sucks to have your bike down because of something like that. So for me, it was fourth gear was jumping out, and I think it was just one bad shift one time. I remember it happening, going across the bridge, getting after it, having fun, and missed the shift into fourth, and it just... And, the problem actually didn't rear its ugly head until maybe 6 months after that. It just, I was out in the Tennessee, Georgia mountains, heading up towards the Cherry-Hill Skyway on this bike, cruising along on fun roads, and it just jumped out of fourth gear all of a sudden on me, and as soon as it starts doing it, it's never going to get better. It just gets worse. So take care of your transmission, learn how to shift well. It's a really important way for you to be a smooth rider, and remember, smooth is fast. So have fun out there on your bikes, guys. Thanks for coming along with me. Remember, weekly rides with Cruising are uploaded every Wednesday, and they're a random collection of motorcycle adventures and life on two wheels. And of course, if you're a new rider or an experienced rider and you need some new gear, check out competitionaccessories.com. That's who spots with me for all these weekly ride videos, and obviously who I work for. So thanks for coming along. We'll see you next week.
And then you're going to hit the starter or the ignition. So that's the starting sequence. All right, so now we're going to work on learning the clutch. We're going to leave the throttle out of it for right now. We're just going to develop a feel for the clutch and what they call the friction zone. It'll basically start to engage and you'll feel the bike starting to pull. Now, depending on what bike you have, if you have a bike that's kind of like a smaller engine, this is an 883cc. If you have a bike with a smaller engine, it might not pull, but you know, if you're starting out with something that does, you can feel it start to pull in the friction zone. So, what you do not want to be pulling back on throttle, right? That is throttle. You don't want to be doing that. So you're going to press it forward on that, right? Kind of hands up, and then you're going to want to pull the clutch inwards, right? So the clutch lever, pull that in. And just kind of get a feel for it. Give it a couple squeezes to feel the tension on it as well if you need to. So while you have that pulled in, you're going to press the gear shift lever down into first gear. So you press it down, one down. You hear it pop or click into place. Most bikes will do that. That's okay. So at this point, you notice my little neutral light turned off. You are in first gear. And so you're going to slowly, very slowly, you don't need to do it quickly, just very slowly start to ease out on the clutch. Right? You'll see it starts to pull, just like that. You pull it back in, you're basically disengaging or taking all power away from the bike. So if you start to get in, once again, if you're in a panic situation, just pull that clutch in, and there will be no power going to the bike at all. So just start to slowly ease it out. All right, pull it back. So while sitting down, just kind of do that a couple times, just kind of rock it back and forth. Whenever I used to be in traffic, you know, sitting at a stoplight, I used to just sit here and do this and rock back and forth and back and forth. Basically what that's doing is you're getting a feel for where the clutch is engaging, right? You're learning that friction zone. So I know I've got all this space right here that it doesn't do anything, right? Like it doesn't do anything between there and there. So I know I can pretty much go there and there and I'm fine. Now it starts engaging right here, right? So once you're comfortable doing that, rocking back and forth, the bike basically just pulls itself. Go ahead and slowly start to ease up on that clutch until it's going. And just slowly ease up, don't give it any throttle. All right, that's it, you're going. All right, if you feel that the bike's gonna stall out, you can pull the clutch back in. Don't worry about this, we're gonna work on turns in a little bit. So that's it, you're going. Like this bike right now, you can give it a little throttle at this point. All right, then if you're slowing back down, you want to stop. Go ahead and give it some more throttle if you got enough space, right? Just to kind of feel the pickup. So at this point, if you want to stop, you're going to let off of the throttle. You're going to pull the clutch back in. You're going to apply your front brake and your rear as well if you want to, but your front brake is your primary. And so you come to a stop, put your legs down, and you're good. Right? So you're going to want to just kind of get comfortable with that. Go around the parking lot a couple times, get comfortable doing that. So roll off the clutch, and then start integrating your throttle, you know, once you're done, like, walking the bike like that. It's entirely up to you. Whatever your comfort level is, progress at your own pace. And then, like I said, once you're comfortable with that, start rolling on the throttle. Just a little bit. I mean, I'm really not bringing it back much at all, right? Barely. All right? And then, if you want from here, practice putting it back in neutral. You're going to put your foot under the shift peg, and you're going to pull one up into neutral. Right? You see the little neutral indicator right there. That way you can let off the clutch, and you're good to go. You don't have to be holding anything. It's not going to stall out or anything like that. Now, just to show you guys what I mean by when I say stall out. So if you pull the clutch in, you put it in first gear, and you just drop the clutch, you don't ease out on it like this to where it's like slowly engaging it, you're going to stall the bike. So that's what this looks like. Right? It's going to really want to do that. But that's what happens. It's going to lurch forward. It's going to cause that jerky motion, and it's going to stall. And it does happen. It happens to everybody. If you got to stall the bike, don't even worry about it. It happens to everyone. I recently bought the new Yamaha R6, and I've stalled that bike a couple times. It's just because I'm learning, the response between the clutch and the throttle. It's different on every bike. It feels a little bit different on every bike. So if you stall a couple times, no worries, no, it's not a big deal. It happens to everyone. And if somebody says they haven't done it, they're lying to you. It happens to everybody. Let's practice basically getting on throttle and going into first gear, right? All right, so you're in neutral. Once again, you're going to put hand on clutch or pull the clutch lever in, press down into first gear, and then you're going to slowly let the clutch out while slowly rolling on throttle, right? So you don't have to do it much, right? There's a little take up here, and then there's throttle, right? So slowly letting out on clutch while slowly coming back on throttle. And that's it, you're rolling. Just kind of take it easy, just coast around in first gear. You can practice a couple of your turns if you want. Don't disobey any stop signs. You can speed up a little bit if you want. Just make sure you have enough clearance. Okay, you see how the engine is revving higher? So the engine is revving higher there because it's basically wanting to get out of first gear. It needs a different gearing in order to go faster. All right, so to slow down, clutch in, we're applying brakes, slowing down, feet down, balance, putting it back into neutral. All right. You should know how to ride a bicycle before learning how to try and ride a motorcycle. If not, you're going to eat a lot of gravel, a lot of pavement. All right, so here's what we're going to do this time. We're going to practice going into second gear. All right, so we're starting out in neutral once again. Hands on handlebars. Once again, you're pulling in the clutch, pressing it down into first gear, rolling on the throttle as you're slowly letting on clutch. Also, just a piece of advice, a big tip here. You're going to want to kind of practice this motion, right? So, like just sitting in front of your computer, not on a bike. I practiced this motion before as well. So you're going to be letting off on clutch while you're rolling back on throttle. So you want to get used to basically doing this motion right here. Now it seems weird, right? If you're just sitting at your desk or sitting at your computer, watching it on your phone, or you're out in public and you're just sitting here doing this. But this is the motion that you need to get used to, right? You're letting off on clutch on the left side while rolling back on throttle on the right side. And you're going to do those evenly, and you want to do it smoothly. You don't want to be like, I mean, you can, but that's whenever you're more experienced. So, I mean, just get to that motion right there. Seems weird. I probably look like a total idiot in the middle of this damn parking lot doing this. All right, so we're going to practice shifting into second gear this time. Hands on handlebars. You're going to pull in the clutch lever. You're going to press down on the gear shift lever. And then you're going to do that motion that I just said. Slowly out on the clutch while slowly rolling on the throttle. Right? All right, so we're going along in first gear. All right, so now we're going to shift into second. So we're going to let off of the throttle, pull in on the clutch, and pull up into second gear. And then slowly roll back on throttle. That's it, you're in second gear. And you can roll around in second gear as long as you don't bog down the engine. You guys know what I mean by bog down the engine. All right, so I'm going like almost 20. Once again, you're still in second gear. So I'm going to start slowing down. I'm going to go into where I should be in first gear at this point. All right, you see that? That jerkiness, that's bogging down the engine. So you're basically not in the correct gear for the speed that you're going in. So at this point, I need to downshift into first gear. So I've got clutch in. I'm going to press down into first gear. Slowly roll back on the throttle while I'm coming off the clutch. You're good to go. You're back in first gear. All right, I'm going to round this turn up here, and then we'll throw it back into second. Just to show you guys again. You're looking where you're going, head straight, rolling on the throttle, full clutch in, off throttle, up into second, slowly off the clutch, back on throttle, you're in second gear. And it's the exact same thing for third gear. Pull in, press up, roll back on throttle, you're in third gear. I'm going kind of slow for third gear though. All right, then we're going to downshift, we're hand back on clutch, off of the throttle, Pressing down into second gear, rolling off of clutch, back on throttle, and we're going. I really wish I had a longer stretch of road here. I'll try and find something over there. All right, so we're slowing back down. Clutch is in, off throttle, down into first gear, rolling back on. Back into second gear, clutch in, clutch lever in, up, back on throttle. That's it. Just practice doing that for a while. If you've got an open lot like this, just practice on going around this lot a couple times in second gear. Just have some fun with it at this point, you know? If you reach this point, congratulations, you're riding a motorcycle. Man, this actually is a pretty big lot. I think I can get up to third gear, somewhere up in here. I'm in second right now, right? Alright, so we're first, shifted to second. Forgive me, stop sign. Shifting into third. Downshifting. Traditionally, you don't want to do that in turns because of the jerkiness. They say usually never apply brake in turns, right? Alright, so I'm going to apply brake, push it back down into first with hand on clutch lever, come to a rolling stop, back into neutral. That's it. You just got to get used to it. And after you do it so many times, you basically are developing that muscle memory for it. So like I said, get used to this motion, right? So you're letting off the clutch lever while you're rolling back on throttle, right? So you're getting used to that motion right there. That's all it is. So look what I'm doing right there. Look, in, first gear. See that? That's the motion of it right there. That's all you gotta do. And then you just progress through the gears after that. Easy stuff, right? So as you get more comfortable with that, try getting faster at it. Like I just did, right? So I'm gonna roll on into first gear. I'm gonna reach second. Shift. Nice and third. Nice and smooth. Downshifting. Slowly letting off clutch. Downshifting into first. Clutch in. Downshifting. So anytime you are going to shift, you need to have the clutch in. There are a couple bikes that you can actually shift, shifting to second. That you can shift without like pulling in the clutch, but it is very specialized. But this is like pretty traditional for like a normal standard motorcycle. Or a normal manual motorcycle, I should say. Park in this little shadow, bring it into neutral. Let me turn it off a little bit. So yeah, that's basically how you run through the gears and you shift. And as you have, more road and all that stuff, you're going to be able to go into third gear and fourth gear and fifth gear, and then if you have it, sixth gear as well. The Iron, like I said, the Harley here only has 5 gears. The other bike I have, the R6, has 6 gears. So it's just about whatever bike you have and developing a feel for it. But those are the basics in using a clutch and the throttle and shifting gears. So they're going to be pretty standard across most motorcycles. What else do I want to go over? We kind of went over turns. We went over shifting. That's a pretty difficult one. We went over friction zone. Oh, posture. You want your posture to be like that. Sit back straight, head and eyes up, wrist flat. So that goes over braking power. Both brakes are applied at the same time when stopping, but neither brake control may be used separately. Full braking power is not required for normal planned stops. it is important to develop the habit of using both brakes so you can use them properly if a quick stop is needed. So yeah, like I said, 70% is your front brake, 30% is your rear brake. If you use them both, you're at 100% braking power, right? So you just want to kind of develop a feel for that. So shifting, you basically change gears to match your engine speed, the RPM. Lower gears are used for lower speeds and higher gears are used for higher speeds. Shifting to a higher gear, so you're going to shift up enough to avoid over revving the engine, but not so soon as to cause the engine to operate too low in RPM. Jerky or lugging motion, which is basically what I was saying, that's bogging the engine. Use a 3-step process to shift to a higher gear. You're going to roll off the throttle as you squeeze in the clutch lever, which is what I was showing you guys. You're going to lift the shift lever firmly as far as it will go, then release it to allow it to reset. You're going to ease out, so slowly come off the clutch lever and roll on the throttle smoothly to match engine and road speed. So that's basically upshifting. That's what we were going over. So shifting to a lower gear, you're going to be sure the road speed is slow enough so you do not over-rev the engine or cause the rear wheel to skid as you release the clutch lever. So basically, if you shift to a lower gear and it doesn't match the engine speed, like say you're going 50 miles an hour and you shift into a gear that's not geared for 50 miles an hour, it's geared for like 30 miles an hour, that's going to cause your back tire to not spin at the correct speed. It's going to cause it to skid, basically to slow you down or lock up, and you could potentially get into a wreck. So you want to make sure that you have the correct gear for the correct speed that you're going. Basically, you're going to use a 3-step process to shift to a lower gear. You're going to roll off the throttle as you squeeze in the clutch lever. Basically, so like I was saying, you're getting used to like the motion of rolling off the clutch and rolling on the throttle to go, and then you're going to roll off the throttle while bringing in the clutch lever in order to slow down. You're going to press down the shift lever firmly and then release it to allow it to reset. So basically it clicks down and you come back up. That's resetting it. So it clicks down into the next lower gear. And then you're going to ease out the clutch lever as you roll on the throttle. If you roll on the throttle slightly as you ease out the clutch, you can help engine speed come up to road speed, making the down smoother. So if you guys want to pause the screen and read all that good stuff, some good information here. I would highly recommend getting this book. Like I said, it's the Rider Handbook from the Motorcycle Safety Foundation. So the Basic Rider course by the MSF. So beyond that, we're getting into more stuff like mental attitude and rain gear and cold weather gear and all the gear. That's a pretty important thing. All the gear all the time. You should definitely be wearing your gear all the time, especially if you're just learning to ride. Occasionally, I won't wear like a jacket, but I always wear gloves, I always wear boots, I always wear pants, I'm always wearing a shirt, and I'm always wearing a helmet. It's all really important. You should definitely be always wearing a jacket, but it's hot here sometimes in Florida. That's not an excuse, because if I were to fall, I mean, my skin would just be all over the pavement. That's what they call being a squid. Squidding, because you hit the pavement, you're going to smear around all over the place like you're a squid. So, all the gear all the time. Be safe, don't be sorry. So yeah, I will continue this more in, more episodes, going through curves and, riding on faster roads and stuff, limited space maneuvers, and yeah, we'll go over some more of this stuff. But for now, I mean, I think that's a pretty long episode explaining all that. We're going over all the parts of the bike, and you're basically learning how to start it up, and you're learning how to shift. So I hope it helps you guys out. If you have any questions, please don't have any questions, because this will be a video that people have like a ton of questions on. But if you do have any questions, post them up in the comments below. If I can find the time to get to them, I will definitely try to answer. But watch the video. I think I explained most stuff in there. Also, just to preface this, like I am by no means like a professional or anything like that. I'm not like a professional motorcycle rider. I'm just a dude that likes riding motorcycles. So I thought I would just share this knowledge. Like I said, Miss Blockhead, she's picked up her interest again in learning how to ride. So this was kind of the catalyst to get it going. So I'm actually going to ride the bike back on the highway just so I can show you guys getting it into some higher gears as well. And we'll kind of sign off from there. So ignition on, run switch on, kickstand up. You have to pull the clutch in if you're in neutral, but I usually do. Alright, so hopefully Superview can catch all of this. Easing out the clutch lever while rolling on the throttle, Lifting legs up once you're going a good speed. Shifting to second. Slowing down, applying brake, pulling in clutch, downshifting into first, letting off a clutch, slowing down. So, another rule just kind of while I'm here, there's nobody behind me at the moment. A big thing with riding a motorcycle is people coming up and rear-ending you. You always got to watch out for that. So usually I keep it in first gear at a light like this until there's somebody like stopped behind me. Because if somebody pulls up and they look like they're going to rear-end you, you can basically kind of roll off the clutch and like get the hell out of the way. You also don't stop directly behind the car. You want to stop off kind of to the side of it so you can roll off one way or the other. Right? Nobody's coming up behind me, so throw it in neutral. That way you can take your hand off the clutch, off the handlebars, just kind of rest easy. But you always want to keep an eye on your mirrors, making sure nobody's coming up behind you. Now that little flip that I'm doing to basically get into rev match, that's not something you guys need to be concentrating on if you're just starting out. Basically engine braking and rev matching. Alright, so you see right now, like, I'm still in fourth gear because I'm not going fast enough to warrant fifth gear, right? So if I were to go into fifth gear, it'd be kind of bogging the engine. So I'm staying here in fourth gear, just hand on the throttle at about the same position. Alright, person behind me stopped, putting it back into neutral. But stopping on the hill, if you can hold yourself on the hill, that's cool. If you can't, I mean, the weight of the bike is definitely a little more pushy. So, like right now I'm on a hill, if I were to lift up my legs, I'm gonna start rolling forward, right? So you can put your hand on front brake, you can put your foot on rear brake, whatever you need to do, however you're comfortable with basically staying like this. Now they do say, if you are stopped on a hill and you're basically trying to go from there, you don't use your front brake, you want to use your rear brake, so both of your hands are free, right? You use like the throttle and the clutch. Well, I guess your right hand would be brake, so your right hand is free to use the throttle. All right. Come on, Brad. Really? That's why you get over? So you can hit brakes in front of me? See, you gotta watch out for cars like this too all the time. Like, I was leaving space between me and the next car, and he felt that like, he was entitled to that space. Oh yeah, there's a really critical part in learning to ride a motorcycle, which you guys are gonna see here in just a moment. If you're ever under an overpass like this, it's absolutely mandatory to do this thing that we call a rev bump, right? Because there's like the reverberation of your exhaust, and you really want to like, right, get on it like that. Like I said, it's mandatory, you have to. All right, well, I think I'm going to end it off there because traffic is getting crazy. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. That is a clean car, man. Looks like they just waxed that thing. Yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If it helped you out, hopefully it helped you out. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them up in the comments below. I'll try my best to get to them, but I'm sure there will be a ton. If you guys did enjoy the episode, be sure to go ahead and hit the like button. If you guys haven't subscribed already, be sure to go and hit the subscribe button as well. We'll come out with lots of useful videos from how-tos to gear reviews. Until next time, you guys ride safe out there. Stay vigilant, and I will catch y'all later. Deuces. What's up, blockheads, and welcome to part 3 of the How to Ride series. I made episodes 1 and 2 long ago. The channel has come a long way since those episodes. They are some of my top most played from everybody that's looking to learn how to ride motorcycles. You guys have really responded well to those episodes. I've had an absolute ton of requests to film a third episode, continuing to go over how to ride and focusing on how to use the clutch, shifting, and throttle, that whole relationship. So in the last episode, it was basically kind of like an introduction to clutch, throttle, and shifting. So this episode, we're going to continue, and we're going to go a little bit more advanced. I'm going to take you guys through all the gears, accelerating, going up, and then I'm going to take you guys through all the gears, decelerating, coming down. From neutral to first gear, up to fifth, and then from fifth, down to first, and back into neutral. Before I get too far into this video, you guys be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you like motorcycle content, hit that bell icon also so it sends you notifications of future uploads and activity. If you guys are just seeing this video, but you haven't watched the previous ones, I would recommend watching those before watching this one if you're new to this, just because they kind of build upon one another. Also, like I said, the channel has grown quite a bit since I filmed those first 2 videos. The community has shown me a lot of support, so I'm trying to basically buy a motorcycle, I build it out, modify it, and then I give it away. If you guys are interested in getting in on that, you guys can join in at the link down below or at patreon.com/blockheadmoto. So as of me filming this, we're in the 3rd season. I'm giving away a Harley-Davidson Sportster 48, and then the next bike will be something even bigger and better. So you guys be sure to go check that out and join up to continue to support the creation of content. And if you want the chance to possibly win a motorcycle or some other cool gear. So in my initial walk around, you guys are probably seeing these zip ties on the clutch lever and on the throttle. You're saying, you got zip ties holding your bike together? No. So basically the reason I have these is to provide a visual cue to you guys if you need them. I learn better visually. I don't know how well they're going to work though. So when I'm pulling back on throttle, you guys will basically be able to see, as per this, that I'm pulling back on throttle, right? Now this one's a little harder to see just because it's over my arm. The bars are higher than they were in the first couple of videos. There's a long story behind this bike. I actually sold it, and then the person that bought it traded it back in, and I bought it back. I was without this bike for a while, so the person that had it after me put these tall bars on it. Before you guys all ask, this bike, it's a Harley-Davidson Iron 83. So the zip ties are basically meant to provide a visual aid so that you can see what my hands are doing, because you can't really see whenever I go to grab the clutch lever and pull it in. So whenever I'm pulling this in, you'll basically see this one move like that, and you'll be able to see this one move. I will explain to the best of my knowledge all of this as I'm doing it. At some point, I'm going to angle the camera downwards so that you guys can hopefully see everything happening at once. You'll be able to see my hands, and you'll be able to see my foot, shifting. Just to preface it as well, sorry guys, I know I'm talking a lot, but there's a lot of information that I need to get in here. Like I said in my other videos, I am not a motorcycle instructor. I have previously been an instructor, but I was an instructor of firearms, so I do have some instructor experience. A lot of you guys have said in the first couple of videos that I should be a motorcycle instructor because you were able to understand my teaching style better than some of your MSF coaches and stuff like that. But letting you guys know, my ways may not be the MSF certified way or anything like that. So on that note, biggest piece of advice to learn to ride a motorcycle is to look into the MSF course, which stands for the Motorcycle Safety Foundation. I have talked about this in the previous videos. You guys be sure to visit the link down in the description below. I'll link to the MSF website. I'll link to the MSF Rider's Manual. You guys look through that. It is an absolute wealth of information. Try to find a MSF class near you, sign up for it, go take the class, and it will teach you all of this stuff. Wherever you are in the world, it might not be called MSF, it might be called something else. But anyways, here we are. That's a little disclaimer. I guess first and foremost, I should explain the gears, the transmission. So this is like I said, a Harley Davidson Iron 883, only has 5 gears. So bikes will usually have anywhere between like 4 and 6 gears. Like a Honda Grom that I have, it has 4 gears. This one has 5. I do have another Harley bike in terms of shifting through them. I'll show a chart right here. So at the very bottom, you have first gear. One step up from that, you have or half shift. And then the next step up shift is second gear, and then third gear, and then fourth gear, and then fifth gear. Why they have it like that, I'm not really sure. Neutral on motorcycles is in between first and second gear. Some people have said they do it like that because whenever you're in neutral and you're at a stop, it's easier to basically stop down on the shift lever to get into first to go. So it's a little more intuitive. If you're ever in a situation where you need to quickly go, it's easier than having to put your foot underneath and pull it up. So it's a faster response, which I can kind of see and understand. But I'm not an engineer. I didn't make the transmission, so I can't really give you a solid answer there. I've had a lot of you guys ask a question like, can you go from fifth gear down to third gear? Yes, you can, but you have to go through each one of those gears. You can't skip over them, meaning you have to go, if you're going from fifth to second, you have to go 5, 4, 3, 2. You can't go from 5 to 2. You don't have to engage or let go of the clutch lever in those gears that you're passing through. You have to go through them. It's not like a stick shift car where you can go from fifth and then go into second. So you can't skip over all those. You have to go through them. I hope that kind of helps, makes sense to you guys. So on most bikes, that's going to be the way it is. I'm not going to get into what they call GP shift, flips it around, where you pull one up and you go 4 for 5 down. So you're basically downshifting to shift up. That's GP shift. That's with bikes, race bikes, stuff like that. With most normal motorcycles, you're going to go 1 down, 5 up, or 1 down, 4 up. So if you've ever heard that expression, like 1 down, 4 up, or 1 down, 5 up, that's what it means.
1 down, 4 up. That's everyone knows. 1 down, 4 up.
All right, starting up, pull the clutch in, make sure you're neutral, kickstands up. Starting the bike. So, going from neutral, pulling in the brake, pulling in on clutch, and I'm going to press down into first gear. So like I said on this, first gear is down, neutral is the next up, and then second. So from here, I can either pull up into second gear, or I can push down into first gear. So pull the clutch lever in, press down. When I do that, this little neutral light is going to go off. Alright, so you hear that click, that means I'm currently in first gear. Now there are some bikes that have gear indicators, this one does not, so you just have to remember it. You have to know what gear you're in, you have to know where you're at. After you ride for a while, you will develop a feel for it. So I'm in first gear right now, I'm going to slowly ease off of the clutch lever. And we're moving. Alright, so I'm going to slowly release out on the clutch lever while pulling back on throttle. Hand is on clutch. So now you guys hear it's revving up, so I need to shift into second gear. So in order to shift into second gear, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the clutch in, I'm going to let go of the throttle, and pull up into second. So let go of the throttle, coming back on throttle while slowly letting out on the clutch lever. And there you go. I'm in second gear. Every other gear change is exactly like that. Same process. Now I'm doing it slowly, basically to show you guys, but as you get more comfortable, you can speed that up. You hear it rather higher, I basically need to shift into third, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to let go of the throttle, pull back on the clutch lever, shift up into third. And then start pulling back on throttle while slowly letting out on clutch. And now we're in third gear. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing here. First gear, off the throttle, on clutch, upshift, back on throttle, off clutch. We're in second gear, gonna shift up to third. Off throttle, pull and clutch, shift up to third. Back on throttle, off the clutch. And this is all just like I said in the second video, this is all just like this motion, right? Pulling in while pulling back. It's just that motion right there. By doing that, even if you're not on a motorcycle, you develop muscle memory. That's what it is right there. It's like back. See, like now I'm in fifth gear, right? So to downshift, you're gonna pull in, shift down, slowly release. Pull in, shift down, slowly release. Pull in, shift down, slowly release. The bike basically is pushing me back. That's what we call engine braking, right? So I'm using basically the gearing and the transmission and the relationship of the transmission to the engine to basically brake for me, which is pretty cool and it's incredibly useful. All right, shifting into second. Shifting into third. So I'm going to go from third to fourth. Pull down, increasing speed. In clutch, off throttle, up in the fourth. On throttle, off the clutch. I'll try to have maybe some kind of visual assistance on the screen while doing this too. Like I said, I learn good visually, so I'm assuming there's lots of you guys out there that learn well visually also. So I'll try to figure some way to like kind of communicate that as I'm doing all this stuff, because it sounds like a lot at first, but as you do it, as you get more comfortable with it, like I said, it becomes muscle memory. So like downshifting right now. Every time you shift, you want to come off of the throttle. Off throttle, in on clutch, downshift, release that, and then I can basically continue with third. Same with the next gear. Off the throttle, in on clutch, downshift, and on second. And then you can go from there. And you want to be in the correct gear for your speed. So like right now, I'm going like 25 miles an hour. I think I'm in second gear. I know I'm probably more towards the next gear than I am the gear below. If I downshift right now, the bike's going to want to kind of throw me forward because I'm in the wrong gear, right? So I'll do that real quick just to show you guys. So off throttle, in on clutch, downshift. See that? I can tell that the speed wasn't going to be right. So it slowed me down, but it also kind of made me lurch forward. So we're in first gear right now. We're shifting to second. So off throttle, on clutch, shift into second, on throttle, off clutch, off throttle, on clutch, shift into third, on throttle, off clutch, off throttle, on clutch, shift into fourth, back on throttle, off throttle, on clutch, shift into fifth, on throttle, release clutch. Right, so see right now, the bike is kind of lugging, right? I'm not supposed to be in fifth gear at like 40 miles an hour. So I'm going to downshift. So off throttle, on clutch, downshift, back on throttle, on clutch. And this is not the right gear. I could actually probably be in third gear too. There you go. So you can do all this stuff at a pretty low speed, like between like first and second gear and that stuff, right? But I'm going to show you guys on this stretch of road how it is getting up into higher speed. And then we should have some more time between shifts to be able to show you guys that, and then maybe I can also show you guys some engine braking. Alright, so we're in first, in second, in third, in fourth, in fifth. I need to be slowing down, so I'm going to apply some brake, downshift, flip. I'm using engine braking right now. See, it pushes me back. That's probably like one of the next, that's probably like one of the next videos or so, like kind of explaining what engine braking is to you guys. Alright, so first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear. So you guys see how much faster it is whenever it's all the same equation. I'm doing exactly what I said earlier when I was kind of talking about doing it slower. I'm basically coming off of the throttle very quickly. I'm pulling the clutch in very quickly, and I'm shifting. And all that's happening within what, like a second, right? It's the same with downshifting. You just kind of have to get all that equation. Like those are all relative to one another, right? Off throttle, on clutch, shifting up. On throttle, off clutch. See, right? You don't want that to happen. You're basically like revving out the engine. There's a disconnect between the transmission and the engine, and you rev up. So if you're going under an overpass and you want to rev off, you pull that in, pull that back, and then rev off. Pull off here for a second. Let's grab a car. Okay, so we've been talking about going through the gears, but you're coming to a stop. You want to shift into neutral, right? Like I said, neutral is above first, but below second. So right now I'm in first gear. So to get into that, that's what we call a half shift, right? So you want to come off the throttle, basically pull the clutch lever in, and you're not going to fully pull up. You're going to half shift up. So it's like kind of a light, right? Let's see, I missed it. You guys can see this also at the same time. So now I'm in second gear. I'm going to try to half shift down into neutral. There we go. So we got into neutral, as you guys can see right there. So we're in neutral. So like I said, I can either pull up into second or go down into first from here. But if you're coming to a stop and you don't need to go into first, and you're basically like coming to a stop and you're in second gear, you can, or if you're in first gear, like I was just doing, riding around in first, you can half shift from first up into neutral. Man, I keep on missing it. I'm in up. All right, so down into first. Half shift. Oh man, I can't. Sometimes that happens with bikes. Also, if you're having trouble finding neutral, sometimes it helps to rock the bike back and forth, right? So that's what I'm going to try real quick. Try moving it while shifting. There we go. See, did the half shift up from first gear into neutral while I was moving the bike. It helped it to find neutral easier. If you guys have any questions at all, be sure to post them. I'll try to get to them, read them, and answer, hopefully clarifying some of this stuff. But I'm hoping this is making sense to you guys, and I'm hoping you can kind of see, like, when I'm pulling back on throttle, using the clutch lever and all that stuff. I know this little zip tie probably isn't the best. I apologize. I'm just going to do this slowly. All right, in first gear, rolling back on throttle, on clutch, up shift, back on throttle, off the clutch. And you do these two very smoothly. Like I said, it's a relationship. You're not just going to, like, do it really fast, obviously, until you've gotten, like, comfortable with it. But it's just very smooth, right? So, off throttle, on clutch, up shift. And back. And back. And up shift. It's the same with down. In, down shift. In, down shift. And down shift. And up shift. And up shift. You guys see? I'm trying to hold my fingers up so that you guys can see, like, whenever they're down, I'm grabbing clutch. Whenever they're up, I'm letting off a clutch. Just because I don't think that zip tie is going to be the best, like, visual aid. Try to angle the camera a little bit so you guys can see it all. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Alright, so we got a red light coming up ahead. We're going to downshift. Alright, so I'm coming. If I don't get back on clutch, I'm going to stall out. So on the first gear, I'm stopped. I'm, in first gear, holding the clutch in. There's not really any cars behind me, so I'm going to upshift into neutral, and you can just sit and relax. Keeping an eye on mirrors, though. You guys always got to keep an eye on your mirrors, especially if you live in, like, a city environment, you never know. Have friends rear-ended. Actually, had some friends rear-ended just, like, 2 weeks ago.